Richmond, concert venues, Bowling Green's Harvest Festival, standbys for the Sheriff's Department should they need those. Those are our big factors. What we have, though, at the end of the year, when we look at our overtime, we do have costs associated with these events that we cannot plan for. It would be easy just to say nobody pays for any of these things, but at the end of the year I have overtime costs, operational costs that aren't being covered because those services aren't being provided to the tax base, per se. We don't budget for those in the front end. In the policy you have before you, I would like to call your attention to a couple things. Number one, the definition of a dedicated non-standby unit, and we've covered those. And the category of people that are asking for them are organizations. We have nonprofits, governmental entities, and commercial services or for-profit events. And those are the three things that we really need to focus on or for our discussion. Does Caroline County, as a governmental body, want to provide EMS coverage for special events? And if we do, is there a cost to that special event? I'll use the Sheriff's Department, for example. If the Sheriff's Department is providing law enforcement coverage for an event, there is probably an applicable fee that goes along with that for that special event. Is that true? That's true. I think the board needs to look at, does that event charge the public for admittance into that event? If we are going to provide an ambulance down to the fairgrounds for a concert or private event that they're charging people, does Caroline County get reimbursed for its cost for providing that? Should we in turn charge the schools or not? Should we charge the sheriff's office? Should they need one or not? I think there needs to be some exceptions. I think if you're a for-profit agency and you're requesting a dedicated or non-dedicated ambulance, there's going to be a cost associated with that. For me to charge somebody, I need board's permission and approval to do that. How does the board feel about it? I need some consistent direction to push out there in policy. This may not be the final policy, and I will draft one, but I need the board's consent on a direction to go. I need the board's consent on charging or not.
Let me ask you a question. And I met with the superintendent and the chairman of the school board a couple of weeks ago, and this issue was, I met with them on another issue, but this issue was brought up. Are they paying now for football games and sporting events? We are only charging them our direct costs for overtime when we have to bring some career folks in for that. But again, my concern here is that we have consistent policy moving forward. Yeah. You know, I just think with the schools, it's taking money out of one pocket and putting it into another pocket. I mean, and I don't know that we're really accomplishing anything in doing that. I think it would be good to establish some goodwill with the school system and the school board, whereas that particular, those sporting events, that we not charge them. It may be that we will try to get volunteers to man those particular events with the rescue squad, whether it be Ladysmith, Frog Level, Bowling Green, or wherever. But I just have a concern with the schools having to pay for the sporting events, having an ambulance sitting by, because who's paying for it? Whether it's coming out of your pocket or the school board's pocket, the taxpayers of Caroline County are paying for it. But I do believe it's an opportunity for us to really generate some goodwill with the school board and let them know that we are trying to work with them in these issues. So, and that's what, you know, I think it's something.
I would concur with that, and I think we definitely need to do school events. I've actually seen people laying on the ground at a football game waiting for an ambulance. Not a pretty sight. So I think we need to do that, and probably free. I think you're right about for-profits.
Oh, absolutely.
They should pay some service, and we'll work through what that cost is. But schools, maybe nonprofits.
I think we can draw the line at perhaps governmental entities, which would include the schools, the Sheriff's Department, Parks and Rec, because they have football games that we do cover a few a year, and perhaps even towns. You have the Harvest Festival in Bowling Green. They're a governmental body, a town. If Port Royal had a party or someone else that's an incorporated town, could we exclude them or not? I mean, I'm trying to make an easy dividing line, that's all.
I mean, we're not a town, but Ladysmith has Ladysmith Day. This is out of town, but I mean, why would you charge Ladysmith Day and not charge Harvest Festival?
Okay.
If you're not going to charge one, you don't charge either.
I think you charge them all.
Charge them all.
I think you charge
when it
them all.
comes to those type of events.
Okay, I agree with you. It's easier for me to apply something, charging them all or not. If we have some exemptions on the front end, we'll write those in. I agree that I really don't want to charge the schools either. The other thing is I need permission truly to charge. And one of the problems with the schools is the amount of, what they were doing is taking the individuals that were on that truck and applying the rate to that bill for that day. I just want to charge them a rate. If you're getting an ambulance, it's X amount of dollars per hour, not to the schools, but to other organizations. It should not be based on the individual who's on the truck. That's too much tedious.
That's fine. I mean,
The only ones free, just to make sure we're clear, the only ones free would be Caroline County governmental agencies and everything under that, which would include schools since we finance them for the most part.
What about nonprofits?
Like what? Pick one.
We don't want to pick one because
I don't know, CSB, I don't,
you take
something that falls under the Caroline County, but it's
agricultural-
quasi.
The Caroline County Agricultural Fair. I mean, that's a nonprofit.
Correct. It's not the
And
county.
it's not a county.
Do you provide an ambulance to them for the whole 4 days?
No, we do not. But I think we have provided them some coverage if it was available. Not dedicated.
Could I ask a question, Mr. Chairman? What do other, well, first of all, the schools, I definitely think we ought not even consider charging them. I mean, football games and those kinds of things, citizens are there, and the citizens have already paid, when they pay their taxes, so I don't have a problem with that. But I guess my question is, what do other localities that surround us do when it comes to the nonprofit groups or the profits?
We put out, that's a good question. We put out an inquiry to everybody that touches our borders, and we have not heard back from that inquiry. A lot of other agencies, county-wise, are larger and can absorb some of that. That's up to their individual size. We're resource deficient.
And I understand that, I'm not saying we should compare ourselves to Stafford or even Spotsylvania, but some of the other localities that are more in line with our economic situation or, whatever, per capita income or whatever, I would just be curious as to know how they handle that situation. Because when you start putting things into practice and you start naming organizations, it's kind of touchy there sometimes. And
It's
touchy right now when people call, and
I think I got it.
Chief,
Mr. Underwood has a
Okay.
question.
Well,
Chief
I might
Lawson,
just-
let
Are you
me
through, Mr.
let me
Taylor?
ask you a question.
Is Mr. Taylor through?
Yeah, I'm finished. You talk about dedicated, non-dedicated. What would have to occur for a unit to be called away from a non-dedicated? Would they be the first service
yeah.
unit to be called?
Yeah, they're an in-service unit.
In-service unit.
They're one of the 3 that we would staff, or if we had coverage in Port Royal or Upper
Right.
Carolina, they would be responding to the event in their area first
So they
due.
could be a primary, okay.
They would be the primary, yes, sir.
Okay.
Instead of staffing at the station, we'd move them out of the station up to your event.
Correct.
They could work your event until they had a call.
Okay.
Thomas?
I lost it. Exactly.
You
The
wouldn't have
dedicated
that
part,
idea.
no, it was. The dedicated part, we're going to always, that's the schools. We're going to have somebody at the football games in particular.
That's correct.
How about because we were going back and forth with nonprofits. If they're charging, then you should charge.
I'm okay with that.
But say it's a nonprofit and they're doing a health clinic or something, and they're doing a free health day and they want an ambulance there, then if they're not charging, you shouldn't charge.
Well,
Is that kind of
that falls in a gray line.
okay?
Okay. If they're having a health fair and they want an ambulance there for educational purposes.
Well, maybe not. Maybe that's a bad
right.
example.
All right.
Maybe it's Joe's Fishing Club.
Okay.
They're doing a nonprofit because they want to help little kids.
Right.
And they say, okay, since we're throwing these lures out, we might want to have an ambulance there in case somebody sticks one in their finger. They're not charging, it's free. The bottom line is if the nonprofit is charging, you charge. If the nonprofit is not charging, then you don't charge.
Do I provide them a dedicated unit?
No, you provide non-dedicated.
I'm okay with that.
Because it's not like something, you know, my thing is, football, you get hit in the head, you're laying there, you break your leg. I've seen all of that. If I stick a lure in my finger, I'm going to yell and scream for a while, but I can probably wait 10 minutes for you to get there. That's kind of what I was looking at.
Okay.
I think the policy,
Well, let me just, volunteer-wise,
Mhm.
you have 3 volunteers that will work one of the events.
Correct.
Any issue with them saying, we're working that event and we're going to be dedicated?
There will be a cost. There is a cost to us to run the department. Volunteer or crew or a career really makes no difference. There is a cost to the system. Got to provide an ambulance, got to provide fuel, the resources on that truck. The problem we have today is organizations call and say, we want a volunteer crew. So we don't incur any theoretical cost. We don't have a policy in place, and that's where we're trying to go to. It doesn't matter who's on the truck. If you want a truck, this is it. Whether it's, and we're always, from my standpoint, to keep costs low, we're going to try to utilize the volunteers to cover that. But if we can't, and you still need that ambulance, we're going to move what we can in there. A lot of times we try to do 1-in-1, one career, one volunteer. That's how we cover a lot of football games. But the bottom line is this. If you need the ambulance, that's it. We'll provide it. It doesn't matter who's in the back. Truly. There is a cost to us as an organization to run all the ambulances. There's the power in the fire stations, EMS stations. There's all the costs associated with insurance and billing and all those other things that go along with it. To say there's no cost because of the volunteer crew is inaccurate.
I got a question, Mr. Thomas.
Spike?
I got a question actually for Mr. Thomas's situation. So, like, let me ask you first. If you take, for example, Ladies' Day that happens, I guess, in May, right? I mean, if would you consider that dedicated or non-dedicated?
Non-dedicated.
Okay. And Mr. Thomas, you said you want to charge for that, right? Non-dedicated. You said you want to charge.
I said, well, I didn't say that one specifically. I said, if there's a fee, excuse me, I said if there's a fee by the nonprofit, then they would have to pay for the ambulance. If there's no fee by the nonprofit, then they wouldn't have to pay.
but that's for dedicated.
No, he said non-dedicated.
Non-dedicated too. If you look in the policy you have before you, that's in there right now. For a non-dedicated unit, the event is a community event where no tickets are sold, admission charged, or is a for-profit activity held. That would be for a non-dedicated unit. So as long as you're not charging, and we can provide you with that non-dedicated unit, we shall.
And in your scenario, Ladysmith Day is happening. It's non-dedicated. There's a giant wreck on 95 where we need all the trucks we can. They leave. But if they pay for a dedicated person, from what you're saying, they stay.
Unless the world comes to an end. There's always that caveat, but yes.
Well, in that case, we're not going to worry about it.
So we're not absolutely not charging for the non-dedicated, correct?
That's, I mean, it's up to him, and that's the guideline we're giving him.
I guess my only concern.
From my standpoint, if it's non-dedicated, I won't charge you.
Yeah.
Right.
Non-dedicated, I won't charge you, and it's going to be based on my ability to get an ambulance there. I'm not guaranteeing it.
Okay.
All I'm doing is taking them out of the station and moving them to your event. There's no guarantee they're going to stay there.
All right. But, yeah. So non-dedicated, no charge.
No charge.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one other question.
Surely.
Would we be able to put this within our budget then as a line item? Since, I mean, they've got 10 or...
How are you
got-
going to
I mean,
know
for
how
the
many
dedicated.
decibels he has?
Well, I mean,
I can't budget for it. That's why I'm here.
we can't.
It's impossible.
We can't either.
Football, sure.
I mean, we can say there's
Extra
five
football games,
five
basketball
football
games.
games. We know he's going to be there. 10 basketball
be-
games. We know they're going to be there.
Well, the
rest
thing-
of them you can't. Though.
At the end of the year, I could come back to you with what it cost. But again, I'm going to try to fill those.
Right.
The costs aren't fixed. If I can fill it with one career or one volunteer, that's cheaper than 2 career. If I can use all volunteer, it's a lower cost overall. There's still a cost.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want you to know at the end of the year when you see that. I just can't budget for it in the front end. That's why we're here.
It's just hard to budget the whole thing. Right. You're right. You're
Right.
Zero cost. There's cost associated.
There is. And right now we're just
Then we need to,
And you're just absorbing the cost now.
taking them on the chin.
we don't want you to do.
I don't either.
Not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up.
Okay? Any
Okay.
other questions?
Does the board want to set a fee or a rate?
I think he should tell us.
Well, I mean, he's told us,
I've given you $100 an hour.
yeah, $100 an hour. If that's what the cost is, and then that's.
I think that's a
what it is.
reasonable fee to charge
Yeah.
for an event. If we're looking,
what it is.
because these events are charged. And I'll give you an example. The sports complex uses us for the MMA fights. They want a dedicated,
I'm sure.
huh? Mixed martial arts?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and you're not double in charge?
We don't have a, I don't have a, you haven't given me the authority to go out and charge people.
That
That's
would
why
be
I'm here.
charge. Yeah, you need to
Yes,
charge
sir.
for that one.
And I need a consistent policy to tell everybody, and that's why we're here.
Well, in that
All right.
case, you charge like it's two paid people.
It's one charge no matter who's on the truck. The lawyer, the attorney.
If you feel comfortable with $100 an hour.
I do. For a starting rate, yes, sir.
I certainly feel comfortable with $100 an hour as far as covering your costs.
But you know
I
you're
mean,
gonna
these
take
people
one of
also
them
pay
anyway.
taxes as well.
That's
And
correct.
so you don't want to go overboard and gouge them, because they're paying taxes. Sports Complex pays pretty good taxes to Caroline County.
But the
And so-
victims.
But again, they're asking for something we just don't have built in our
I
system.
understand. All right, board, how do you want to, do you want us to vote on this policy tonight, or you want to come back with some?
Can I come back and put it on consent?
Please,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Chief Walters.
Thanks, Chief.
Proposed adoption of emergency ordinance to extend deadline for Lord availability fees. Mr. Shebel.
We can do this one without, we don't even need it.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Before you tonight's an emergency ordinance to extend the reduced availability fees for the water system. What this does is, it was targeted, we actually started this in 2008 with the extension of the water line, and we've been moving it along with the anticipation of Caroline Pines. Due to the CSX crossing and the delays that were there, we were looking to take the system over on July 1. That would give us some time to be able to get the houses that are in foreclosure, working through banks, and people that have not signed up a chance to sign up under the reduced fee. Right now, we have 143 people that have not signed up today. We're going to take over the operations of the system on Monday. Right now, the way it stands, if they have not signed up by Monday, I will cut them off and will not be able to turn them back on until they pay an $8,000 availability fee. So we're asking the Board of Supervisors to adopt this emergency ordinance, which gives us 60 days to be able to get everyone hooked in. We feel that 60 days is more than sufficient to do
Now let
that.
him talk.
That was
Okay.
good. We were trying to choke Mr. Underwood.
Mr. Underwood, you okay?
I was going to make a motion, but, because I think this is fair. We're basically giving them a chance because of extenuating circumstances. But Mr. Underwood wants to stop it, but I'm going to move that we go ahead with the emergency ordinance and extend the deadline for lower availability fees. Since it's an emergency ordinance, it takes effect for 60 days and automatically goes away.
That's correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Seeley. You heard the motion. There's discussion on the motion.
Automatic.
All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shebel. Opposing board comments. Mr. Black?
Not this time.
Mr. Taylor?
No, sir.
Mr. Underwood?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Seeley?
No, sir.
I have none.
All right. Only thing I would like to say that based on the letter that we prepared and resolution and sent last week or 2 weeks ago to the General Assembly about the tolling of 95, I did receive, I hope the other board members received a copy of the letter from Delegate Cox, which certainly agrees with our understanding of what's happening, and he too does not feel like that it's good for the state. He has also asked that we send a letter to VDOT expressing our concerns and displeasure. So I would ask that the board approve the county administrator sending a letter to VDOT and a copy of the resolution to VDOT, if he hasn't already done so, expressing our concern about the tolling of 95. Does the board have any concern with that? Okay, sounds great. All right. Closed meeting? Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman?
All right. I move that this board convene and close meeting pursuant to the consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff exemption, Section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia, regarding specific legal matters requiring legal advice regarding community development authorities. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Taylor. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion is carried, and the board will enter closed session. Is there a second? Second. Motion made by Mr. Seeley and seconded by Mr. Underwood. She's back here. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. Mr. Black, do you certify that we only discussed in closed session the items we went into closed meeting for?
I so certify.
Mr. Taylor? Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
Mr. Thomas?
So certified?
And I so certify as well. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Underwood. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.